Sure we get it shared out through the church. If you happen to want to rewatch it, or if you want to share it with someone who wasn't here, you're certainly more than welcome to do that. Let's go ahead and open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we just come before you and just thank you for your wonderful creation, Lord. And I know I am so looking forward to getting to marvel at this specific aspect of it, Lord. And I just pray that my knowledge, that my enthusiasm would be beneficial to everyone here, Lord, and that you would be glorified through all of it. And just thank you for the time that we have here together tonight. And I just pray once again, Lord, for clear skies come Eclipse Day. In your Son's name, amen. For those of you who do not know me, just in case, I am Eric Sollenberger. I am usually hiding in the back in the sound booth. I run the live stream and the video camera most days. I teach adult Bible study on occasion. For those of you who have had me in adult Bible study, you're going to hear my favorite verse yet again. And you've probably been subjected to that a few times, and that's okay. My job is the 8 through 12 science teacher over at Rushi Local, and I've been there now 19 years, my whole career, and I have half of the science classes, is a simple way to say it. We're a very small rural school, less than 450 students, K through 12, all in one building still, and I'm half the junior high school science department. The other half has all the life sciences, so I get to teach a little bit of everything. I absolutely love it. But astronomy is my first love. It's what my dad got me hooked on when I was little, and I have always loved it. And the hardest thing about teaching astronomy is so much of the awesome stuff to see is at night. That's hard to make entertaining during the school day without just showing off other people's photos. This is something that we'll be able to see during the school day. We were the only school in the county at the time that was supposed to be in session that day. We have since chosen to take a calamity day, so we will not be in session. But weather permitting, I will be there. Rushi, you are certainly welcome to come join me. You will get about 20 extra seconds of Eclipse if you come join me over there. I would argue that it's worth it. I tried to convince my administrator when we were still in session, it was worth it to bus maybe 10 miles north to Fort Laramie because you get a whole another 1 second of Eclipse. He doesn't agree with me. He's wrong, but I've at least convinced him it's a big deal and that it's worth taking seriously. But I'll be over at Rushi. You're certainly welcome to join me. Having said that, we have a great view here in Florida. Now, if it is cloudy and you have the ability to get away from here, go. It's on a Monday. I plan on leaving on Friday. I've got backup site school order picked out. My wife teases me every time. We were just joking about this afternoon. She's like, why don't we go to Niagara? And I started listing out the reasons why Niagara's not the best pick. And she's like, you say that every time. And I'm just going to keep asking you, why not Niagara? So you list off the same thing every time. And she has, but I have backup site school order picked out already. I will leave on Friday if the forecast is bad. If you cannot leave, it is still worth going outside and observing because it will be dark as night in the middle of the day. And it is strange and it is awesome and it is a very short-lived thing. I'll give you all the times and all the details as well as how to go find them later in case you forget. And so anyway, the last thing I have to say here in introduction, and this is, I was appointed to be by National Science Teachers Association and the American Astronomical Society as an official Eclipse ambassador. Now, I would have been doing this anyway, and that's what I told them on my application. Look, I'm going to be teaching anyway, you might as well endorse me. And they said, great, go for it. And then through that, I found out about a grant. I've actually pulled in 3 grants for Rushi. We brought in $1,500, or $500, big difference there, but a lot of money. We have a whole bunch of cool new equipment at school. And one of those grants specifically tasked me, or I kind of volunteered when I said I was doing the grant, that I would teach people how to do citizen science. So I hope I can convince a few of you at least to download an app and collect some data on Eclipse Day. It's a 3-hour window of time anyway, and you're going to be watching it. You might as well contribute a little bit of data to scientists who really would like to have the data. That grant came specifically from the American Astronomical Society, Solar Eclipse Task Force, the J.M. Pasikoff, I hope I'm saying his name right, Solar Eclipse Mini Grant Program. And so I have to give them acknowledgement and thanks, and especially thanks to the pastors who helped me organize this kind of last minute. That's on me, but they put it together, they helped me promote it. I'm so excited to be here and teach this. Also, I'm realizing it already as I'm saying it, I get excited, I already talk fast, I sometimes talk too fast, I sometimes get quiet. If either of those happen, please interrupt me. Stop me, tell me to repeat something, slow down, speak up, whatever it is. I'm used to having a microphone on in the classroom, and I chose not to mic myself tonight, but don't hesitate to interrupt. There will be time for questions at the end, but don't hesitate to ask them while they're fresh on your mind. I know what it's like when a student holds their hand up for 5 minutes, I take 3 other questions, I get to them, and they blank. I forgot. And I'm old enough, I blank more often than I'd like to. Anyway, it's time for my absolute favorite verse in the Bible. Amos 5:8. Seek him who made the Pleiades and Orion, who turns the day dark with night, and the shadow of death into the morning, who calls forth the waters from the sea and pours them out on the land. His name is the Lord. Amen. Amen. I'm proud to say they're not great, but all of those photos are mine. The top left and top right ones are actually with brand new smart telescopes. They're insanely amazing. I turn on an app, I tell it to aim, it aims, it takes a photo for me. I seriously go and watch a show with my wife, come back, and there's this gorgeous photo waiting for me. I don't have to do anything. My skills don't have to do anything. The first one is the Pleiades. The Pleiades are a star cluster in the constellation Taurus. Now, constellations are imaginary connected dot pictures in the sky. As I said, my dad's the one who got me into stargazing in the first place. I was 3 or 4 years old. It was winter, and I know that only because of what constellation we were looking at. I'd like to say that I remember it being crisp snow on the ground and chilly outside. And you can say, I don't. I just remember we saw this constellation, therefore it had to be winter. But he's standing there in the backyard, got home from somewhere. We usually went out to eat a few Friday nights a month, and he's pointing, do you see those stars? I see a star. Do you see the 4 there, the big box now? There's a square there. He said, no. And I'm getting frustrated, and he's getting frustrated. Finally, he goes inside, goes into the desk drawer, pulls out a 3x5 note card, and draws 7 dots on it. He said, all right, we're going to connect the dots with the stars. We're going to look for that. We go back outside. He said, do you see him now? I said, no. He kneels down next to me, holds that card up in front of my eyes, where the card is blocking my view of the sky. He drops that card, and there's the big tower. He said, all right, ran back inside, he flipped the card over, he drove 7 more dots. Goes back outside, we turn the other direction, look south. I'm not looking in the right directions here, but we look south. He holds the card up, does the exact same thing, doesn't even say anything this time. Drops the card, and there's Orion. Orion's so much brighter and more brilliant than the Big Dipper. I say hello, old friend, every time I see Orion in the sky, and I think of this verse every time I see Orion in the sky. I've been hooked since I was a little kid. In Orion, which is the middle one here, is famous. He's got 2 bright stars up here and 2 bright stars down here. They're viewed as his shoulders and his knees. He's got the famous 3 stars in the middle, that's his belt. And there's more than 7 stars that make up Orion. My dad probably drew more than 7 dots, but I like that they both have 7, so I bend the story a little bit. But there's this faint fuzzy patch down here. It's viewed as his sword belt. That sword belt is actually a nebula. It's a place where stars are born. Stars don't last forever. Stars are born and stars die. And there's these huge clouds of gas and dust where stars are being formed, and that's what you're seeing up here. This is the Orion Nebula M42. It is absolutely gorgeous. It has all sorts of little subparts in it. It's probably the most well studied of all of the star-forming nebulas in our galaxy. It's amazing. Seek him who made the Pleiades and Orion, who turns the day dark at night. 2017, I traveled to Missouri. We went to St. Louis for a long weekend. That was for everyone else, so that they could put up with my science vacation. We took a lot of various science vacations. Monday, we checked out of the hotel, we drove south, we were just trying to find somewhere that was inside the path of totality, hopefully close to the center line, and hopefully someplace that wasn't booked full. I was getting into that point, I was going to have to pull over on the side of the road. I'd already read a town's website. Way too late I started researching where I was going to go. This town's website Sold out. 5 foot by 5 foot squares in the park for $20 a piece. Parking sold out throughout the whole little town. I'm going to pull over on the side of the interstate. I don't care if it gets hit. I'm driving down to see this chain of buses going north. I'm like, I bet they're going somewhere, so I pulled off the interstate, followed them. Gorgeous park, amazing views. I got to see the eclipse, and that is probably the best, no, not probably, that is the best photo, probably the only good photo I took the whole eclipse, at least during totality. This is something called Diamond Ring that you'll see just for a brief moment at totality, and it is gorgeous. And I managed to catch that coming out of totality, especially because it's on the right-hand side there, which we'll get into in a bit, but turns the day, dark at night. This is 2:30 in the afternoon in Missouri in August. And there, I have a photo later on. It's the closest I can get to a horizon photo. It looks like a sunset 360 degrees around. Up here, dark as night. Out this way, you do have a sunset, I think, because you're seeing beyond the shadow. It's weird and cool. It turns the day, dark at night, and the shadow of death into the morning. A lot of people read through that and they're just like, oh, bright to dark, dark to light, no big deal. Now, it's specific. The day, dark with night, that is a total solar eclipse. The shadow of death into the morning, it's not bright. It's morning. Morning, you think morning sunrise, reddish sky. It's exactly what happens during a total lunar eclipse. During a total lunar eclipse, you have the moon passing into the Earth shadow. Solar eclipse is moon shadow hitting Earth. This is Earth shadow hitting moon. Lunar eclipse, the moon starts to darken. It looks like it's going through all of its phases right there in one night. As it starts to go, it's getting darker and darker and darker and darker, but the Earth is bigger and some light gets through the Earth's atmosphere. And so you have the Earth. We'll use this one. You have the Earth, and the Earth shadow, let's put it, sun is shining, hitting the Earth, Earth has a shadow. Earth always has a shadow behind it. It's just only on occasion the moon gets into that shadow. Usually it's up above or down below or not on the backside of the Earth, but sometimes it gets in. So it's passing into Earth shadow, it's getting darker and darker and darker, and then when it gets behind the Earth, the collective light of all the sunrises and all the sunsets of Earth slip through Earth's atmosphere and then hit the moon. And that's why we get a reddish moon, what Revelation called blood moon. We think Revelation is referring to a lunar eclipse, but that's why we get a reddish moon. The reason you get a reddish moon on the horizon is the same reason the sky's red. The sky's red, the sky makes the moon look red. But during a total lunar eclipse, you have this shadow passing into the shadow of death into the morning. And then you have the astronomy line of that verse. Calls forth the water from the sea and pours them out on the land. That's, of course, referring to flooding. That is Englewood Dam. I'm an avid bird watcher. Those are ducks swimming well above where the lake normally is. And you can see the stop sign there. That is here. Then there's a hill down to the actual parking lot. The water is really deep there. And that's the day I saw the first blue ducks. So I was super excited about that. Absolutely love this. And God set all this in motion at the beginning of creation. God is involved in his creation, but he also started a lot of processes and just let them run. And they run exactly like perfect clocks and do exactly what he wants them to do when they do. I'm going to reveal my hand a little bit here. Very much the Christmas star could have been a miracle. And 100% could be supernatural. There's no way to prove or not prove that. That's the downside of historical science. But I became convinced from an astronomy professor years ago that a supernatural event like that probably would have been noticed by lots of people and recorded by lots of people. If you have instead some people who believe in astrology, who know and think that the stars control the motion, control your life, and they know the motions of the stars, and they're keeping track of everything, and they think everything's going around us, which it doesn't. We're self-centered like that. But we think everything was going around us, and sometimes the planets went backwards, which didn't make any sense, and we couldn't figure it all out. And so they're keeping track of all these motions. And there was this event in 7 BC, early for the birth of Christ. There's some possible explanations where you have Jupiter and Venus both approach each other multiple times and approach important stars multiple times. All stars, planets associated with royalty. And they do this multiple times throughout the year before they finally set in the west. My dad said years ago, he's like, we've seen a star in the east, and yet we say the kings came from the Orient, and we were in the east, what we would call the Middle East or the Near East, the Far East, which was China. They were in the east and saw them in the west. If they're keeping track of those details, but your average day-to-day person isn't, then maybe it wasn't a miraculous event. I think it's all more awesome if God just said, you know what, in creation I'm going to make this eclipse happen in Assyria exactly when I want it to, and 700 and change years later I'm going to make these stars come together, these planets come together in the night sky to announce the birth of my son. And those same motions that he set in motion did other things at other times that he wanted that are possibly prophesied, like in Revelation, and also all those motions resulted in us being able to have this year, here in time. I think it probably was natural. Now, it happened a little bit early. Maybe they were slow to figure things out. Maybe they were slow to get there. It is very likely, because we know that when the Israelites went into captivity, during the second captivity, they were allowed to bring along more of their stuff. It was a more peaceful time for them. Some of them hesitated to go back home when they were allowed to, finally. And they took their scriptures with them. In fact, we're fairly certain a decent chunk of scripture was written there while they were in captivity. And the Babylonians probably kept copies and studied them, which is how they knew the King of the Jews was prophesied, and then they see these works like skies that make you wonder. Again, it could be totally supernatural. I think it's possible. But anyway, a few years ago, there was what many called the Christmas star, or the Great Conjunction, and this is not the same planet, but it just happened close enough to Christmas. It was a nice coincidence, and calling it the Christmas star just made everyone feel warm and fuzzy. But you have Jupiter, the bright one, down at the bottom left, Saturn there in the top right, and I can see it because I'm way up close here, but there's a whole 1, 2, 3, 4 little dots close to Jupiter. Those are Jupiter's 4 moons. Galileo's seen those moons. He's like, wait, something's going around Jupiter, which means not everything is going around Earth. Therefore, maybe we're not the center of everything. That was the start of us realizing that, but you can make out the moons of Jupiter if you come really close to that picture. And so I love that one. That was also taken by me. This is Amos 5:8. It's not the only time Amos refers to this, but there is a scientist at NASA, actually I think he is retired now, who needed to test his supercomputer. That was his job, programming and testing the supercomputer and then actually writing programs on it. Well, if you want to test and see if this thing works for doing calculations you've never done before, you need to have it do something where you can check its answer. And since we're wanting the computer to do calculations we can't do, we had to give it the task of doing calculations we knew the answer to. And he said, you know what? I like eclipses. Why not just have it go fast forward in time and backwards in time and just calculate all the eclipses? And then we can take the ones we know of, compare it to the supercomputer data, and see if the supercomputer got those right. And if it did, then it's probably also figured out all these past and future eclipses for us and has predicted a whole bunch of future eclipses so we can stop working these things out by hand. And so he came up with a 5,000 years of eclipse data. I think it goes forward to 3,000 and back to negative 2,000. Sure enough, the people had calculated by hand previously, but sure enough, it predicted exactly that there was an eclipse, June 15, 763. The Assyrians wrote about it. Amos prophesied about it. And it occurred during the reign of King Jeroboam II, who lead the Second Kings, but definitely, anyway. like I said, Amos 5 is not the only time Amos refers to that. It comes back to it in 8. I don't have this one memorized though, so I'm going to cheat here. Amos 8, 5, and 9. When will the new moon be over that we may celebrate? This is the people inquiring of Amos, who's speaking on behalf of God. And on that day, this is God's response, and on that day declares the Lord God, I will make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth in broad daylight. He's talking about how they will know his signs. A total solar eclipse happens in the new moon phase. A total lunar eclipse can happen in the full moon phase. New moon is where you're looking at the dark side of the moon. So, it's easier if we do the big pretend moon out here. This isn't actually the moon, but big pretend moon. If you're on Earth and you are looking towards the sun and the moon happens to be in that direction, you're looking at the night side of the moon. Earth here really should be half light, half dark, but because they make it spin, they'd have to make that half light, half dark spin. It's just too complicated. But everything that is not its own light source, that is at least spherical, half light, half dark. If it's not spherical, it's asymmetrically lit. The side facing sun light, the side facing away from the sun dark. So when you're here, you're looking out at the sun, or towards the sun, and the moon is out in that direction. You're looking at the night side of the moon. That's what we call new moon. When we get to the other side, then you're on the earth looking away from the sun towards the moon. You're seeing the whole day side of the moon. That's what we call full moon. And so the moon phases are just a matter of how much of the day and night side of the moon we see. Eclipses are when the three have to be in a straight line, and that's the downside of a model like this. Is frequently the moon is up here above us or down here below us, and the shadow is missing us. Frequently, it's up here above us or down here below us, and our shadow is missing it, and it's only on occasion that the things line up and we actually get a total eclipse. There's also a biblical scholar, and I got this from a source I trust. I didn't actually go track down his original writing, but biblical scholar David Wiseman speculated that the eclipse took place about the same time that Jonah arrived in Nineveh. We know for certain that Jonah and Amos were teaching around the same time, but if Jonah gets there and urges the people to repent, otherwise the city would be destroyed. And this, he said would, I'm going to go with could here, explain the dramatic repentance of the people of Nineveh. You have this eclipse that Amos prophesies that happens, and then Jonah shows up at the doorstep and says, you're about to be destroyed. Well, you have no clue what the heck an eclipse is, and you've just seen this scary thing in the sky where the sky went dark in the middle of the day, and you might listen up. It might get your attention. We didn't start to figure out eclipses until, I want to say, it's 300-ish BC. The Greeks started to figure it out. And they actually figured out that the Earth was a sphere because the eclipse shadow was always curved. You never had a straight line like this. If the Earth was flat, you get a shadow that wasn't circular sometimes. And so, by that time, they're beginning to figure out eclipses. 400 years before that time, 500 almost, they hadn't figured out eclipses. Anyway, I want to get into actually what is an eclipse. So, again, my dad's the one who made me fall in love with astronomy. I'm pretty sure I'm right outside of 7th grade, so I'm right outside of 1st grade, so I've just turned 7. And, yes, go ahead.
Do you mind questioning?
No, not at all.
Is that the kind of the extent of the biblical?
So,
are there other references?
The Revelation talks about the moon turning to blood or turning red like blood, and that is, most people think it is referring to a total lunar eclipse. And then Job at one point describes it himself, and God questions Job with it. And I bookmarked these just in case, just a moment ago, because I get the two confused. I have them both memorized, but I get the two of them confused. But let's see, Job 9, starting in verse 4. He who is wise in heart, mighty in strength, who has hardened himself against him and succeeded. He who removes the mountains, and they know it not. Who overturns them in his anger, who shakes the earth out of its place, and its pillars tremble, who commands the sun, and it does not rise, who seals up the stars, who alone stretches out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea, who made, and here's constellation references again, the bear and Orion. Now, ESV here is capitalized bear. I still think it's referring to bears on ground, but instead, Big Dipper. Big Dipper is a unofficial constellation that's a subpart of Ursa Major, the Great Bear. Little Dipper is an unofficial name for the constellation Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. but who made the bear and Orion and the Pleiades, referring to the same two there, Orion and the Pleiades, and the chambers of the south, which we think is just referring to other constellations, maybe a zodiac kind of thing. Chambers were possibly where the sun appeared in the sky at different times. We're not 100% certain on that one. Who does great things beyond searching out, and marvelous things beyond number. And then later on, when God is questioning Job, Job 9, 4 through, where did I stop? 10. Then, in Job 38, 31. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? So again, Pleiades and Orion, but bind the chains of Pleiades. Pleiades is a star cluster. Can you make them cluster together, or can you loose the cords of Orion? Orion's full. Can you let out his belt? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season? In other translations, there will say the bear. Others will say we have no clue and be a little bit more honest about it. I like Mazzaroth. Mazzaroth is the constellations, not the bear. Sorry, bear is the second half of the sentence. Some will say that it would be more honest and say we don't really know, but many think that it probably is the name of a specific constellation or just a name for constellation in general. Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season, or can you guide the bear with his children? Now again, bear is capitalized here, and I'm pretty sure it's referring to Ursa Major. I'm at least going to pretend it is, because I'd rather talk about the sky than the animal bears. Anyway, do you know the ordinances of the heaven? Can you establish their rule on the earth? And he also refers to flooding here right after that, which I didn't even notice till today, that right after the astronomy comes flooding again, and in Amos it's astronomy and flooding. But those are the only definite and clear references to eclipses in the Bible that are upon. And even Revelation, we always have to be careful with taking a book that is prophesied in the future, but it describes that. Students would come in all the time and tell me they saw a blood moon. I'm like, well, you saw a red moon. Or they'll tell me they saw a harvest moon in the springtime. I'm like, well, no, you saw a reddish moon on the horizon because you're looking through reverse atmosphere, which just makes things look red. Because if you're looking through a red filter, then things look red. And when it gets up this way, away from the sunset horizon, then it no longer looks red. But I understand what they're saying, but you'll hear all the time about the blood moon and that this is somehow prophesying doom. It's like, at some point, I think it will. But it doesn't mean that every blood moon is. Now, can every blood moon be a reminder? You betcha. Can every eclipse be a reminder? You betcha. You have fewer chances to watch these solar eclipses than lunars, but they do happen decently frequently. But as far as clear in Scripture, I would say the two passages in Job, the two passages in Amos, again, the indirect, Jonah was working at the same time, the people of Nineveh seemed really eager to repent, and then the book of Revelation are the ones that I know of, and as far as I know are the only agreed upon ones. Other questions before I go forward? So, back here, what's an eclipse? I'm 7 years old, it's summer, and my dad gets home from work, and my friend, my next door neighbor and I are playing together, and he says, hey, tomorrow night there's going to be an eclipse. And my friend goes, wow, neat! What's an eclipse? My dad was excited, he was excited, we had no clue. My dad stood there, and I got out a baseball or a softball and a soccer ball, and he starts modeling all of this for us. And so I'm going to get into what's an eclipse. Before I can, one other downside of astronomy. It's hard to do during the day. It's also very hard to draw things to scale. The picture you will see here is not the scale. I have tried to set up a scale model in here. It is tough. But back there in the trash can, there is a 22-ish inch globe. It's actually a hair small, but there's a 22-inch globe back there in the trash can. This over here is a 6-inch moon. And they are, when I put this one here, 55 feet and 4 inches apart. I was so happy it fit in the room. It doesn't fit in my classroom. We have to go out in the hall to do this one. 55 feet apart. This is scale Earth to Moon. Now, for an eclipse, you need three things. You need Earth, Moon, and Sun. The problem is the sun is 4 miles away. And let's see, for a total solar, it'd be that way because the moon would be new moon phase, we'd be looking at that, and it'd be 4 miles that way. And it'd be 200 feet big. That's a little bit longer. I paced it out here while I was waiting. A little bit longer than back of the building to front of the building. I got about 180 of my feet just doing this down the hall, and then when I got to the 180 feet is what I got. Almost 200 feet, the size of the church. And that's the diameter of the sun. If we had it sitting on the ground, it also be 200 feet that way. It's just impossible to scale. If we take the sun and we shrink that 200 foot size sun down to this size, then back here, I'll pass this around. Back here, tiny little dot is the Earth. That 4 miles becomes 75 feet. We fit that in the hallway, roughly. And the moon? It's a speck of dust, quarter inch away. Anyway, I have 2 of these. We'll start one over this side. We'll start one over around this side. Make sure you get to see it. These are cool. As a side note, false color image of the sun. That's not an actual photograph of the sun. It's looking at UV light coming from the sun. It's from satellites that we have orbiting the sun. But pictures not the scale. Hopefully that's obvious because the sun is smaller than the Earth in this picture. That is not the case. The distances are not the scale, the sizes are not the scale. Maybe the moon-Earth size are close, but the moon-Earth distance, the Earth-Moon-Sun distance is very not at all. Anyway, what happens in an eclipse is, as I said, there's shadows involved. We're looking at it from our perspective, and we name eclipses based off of what's being blocked out. In a solar eclipse, the sun is being blocked out. In a lunar eclipse, the moon is being blocked out. The downside is it causes a little bit of confusion because the shadows are coming from different things. Earth is in the middle, we're looking out towards the sun, and we see the moon. It's the moon shadow falling on us during a total solar eclipse. During a lunar eclipse, it's the Earth shadow hitting the moon. We're looking away from the sun. But it happens during what's called new moon phase, and you have the sun's rays hitting the moon, and there's a shadow behind it. That conical shadow, there is a dark part of the shadow, that inside cone there will completely block out the sun. If you are inside of that shadow, you get what's called a total solar eclipse. If you are outside of that shadow, you get what's called a partial solar eclipse. In 2017, it was cloudy here, I was told, like I said, I was down in Missouri, but we had a partial eclipse. In 1994, there was a partial eclipse. In the early 2010s, somewhere, there was a partial eclipse, and the sun set while it was eclipsed, and it was pretty cloudy on the horizon that day, unfortunately. Because of not in Seattle, got to see it, and I'm jealous. But you get a partial eclipse if you're anywhere inside of this larger shadow. It's somewhere between cylindrical and conical shape. This one shows it being a bit of a cone. It doesn't exactly matter, but the things aren't being still. The Earth is rotating. The moon is moving around the Earth. The Earth is moving around the sun and dragging the moon with it. All of those motions together make it so that you can't just go to a spot and there's the shadow. The shadow moves across the land because the Earth is rotating. Because the Earth is tilted and the Earth is rotating and the moon is moving, it doesn't go in a straight line. Question?
So, just to explain, how fast does the shadow move?
I have it here in a moment. It actually changes because as it goes up the curvature of the Earth, because the Earth is curved, you have a smaller and smaller circle. And so it changes the speed of it as it goes. And that's what changes how long you're in the shadow. So we get a slightly shorter eclipse than what you do if you go down to Texas. It's only about a 30-second difference, but it's different. Heck, the fact that we are here in Russia, you get almost 20 extra seconds than you guys here. That is a combination of how close to the center of the shadow, as well as how far we are away from what's called maximum eclipse, which happens down in Mexico this time. But it moves more than 1,000 miles an hour at all times during the eclipse. I have been told you can see the shadow coming in. I did not in 2017. I plan on having a drone up there, hoping I can get it programmed, just have it watch west, and then at totality, I want to just turn and look down and let all the people gawking up sun. And then, as the totality ends, I want to look east, and I want to see if I can see that shadow moving across the ground. I watched all videos on YouTube trying to find some. They all claim during chat, drone caught the shadow, and maybe one of them can make the shadow coming in and coming out. But I know the charm. We'll see. But the shadow moves fast, and that has to do with the rotation rate of the Earth, the revolution of the moon around the Earth, and the revolution of the Earth around the sun. And so all of those are coming into play and cause that shadow to move across the Earth. But if you're here and the Earth is going to rotate to where you're inside the shadow, then what's going to happen is you end up in the penumbra, the light part of the shadow first. So the sun starts to get blocked out. You get a partial eclipse. And then, if you're in a lucky place like here in Ohio, in the right place in Ohio, then you end up inside this shadow. Some people are here, and they spend the whole time in the shadow. So it gets more blocked out, and then it gets unblocked out, but it never gets totally blocked out. You have to be in that dark part of the shadow where you get totally blocked out. And so we have to be in one of those lucky locations. You will hear, unfortunately, people who will talk about how this, I had a couple people this morning already ask me about how, does this mean something unique? Eclipses happen, there's guaranteed to be 2 solar eclipses a year. Guaranteed, somewhere in the world there's 2 solar eclipses. Most of the time it happens over the ocean or over the poles, and most people, unless you're a crazy kind of heliophysicist, a physicist who studies the sun, you don't go there. And half the time when you do go there, it ends up being cloudy. And so, and if the world is 70% ocean, most of the time it doesn't happen. These are all the 21st century eclipses visible in North America. 2017 is this one here. We call it the Great American Eclipse. In fact, the Great American Eclipse.com is where I got this graphic from. But there's 2017. Down here is where I was in Missouri. Missouri, you'll notice, is inside where those two cross. And because it's inside where those two cross, I'm going to point out over here to these people, because it's inside where those two cross, if it's cloudy here, I can go stand in the exact same place I stood last time and still see the eclipse. It'd be awesome. If I can't watch it here because it's going to be cloudy, that's where I'd like to go. If it's cloudy there, I have other backup spots. The next eclipse in the United States, other than this tiny little bit of Montana and the Dakotas that gets an eclipse in 44, the next one in the U.S. is 45. It goes across down here. Well, the one in 45, the X is inside Arkansas. So I could go there and watch Arkansas right now, and then in 21 years go back and stand in the same place. If the Lord wills, and I can make it 21 years. Unfortunately, my dad's a cheapskate. He stayed in Cincinnati last time and tried to make it over to Western Kentucky to see the eclipse, and he got to what should have been a 15-minute drive, and instead it was a 2-hour parking lot, and he didn't get total solar eclipse. But my sister lives in Cincinnati, and so they saved an hour of drive time that morning, and they didn't have to pay for a hotel. They missed it. We had the eclipse at the end of our vacation. He put it at the beginning of theirs. He was grumpy the whole vacation. They came back home early. My mom was tired of putting up with them. Unfortunately, the reality is my dad's in the mid-90s. If he makes it to 45, I really want my dad to see this eclipse. I really want to see it with him this time, make sure he sees it. But I'm super excited about it as well. Can't tell. The next one in Ohio, they actually don't have on this picture here for some reason. But there is going to be one in Ohio in 2099. It's on there. Maybe the tiny ones will make it. But they're going to be up there in age too. I don't think I'm going to be around. The last time Ohio was in the dark part of the shadow, 1806. But this is just 1801 to 1820. This is all the eclipses. And it was spectacular. 1806, this blue one here, is the last time it came through Ohio. It wasn't even all of Ohio, just like this one. There was what's called an annular eclipse. I don't want to get into the differences between the total solar and annular. With an annular, there was an annular earlier this year in October, visible down in the southwest U.S. And because the moon doesn't go around the Earth in a circle, and the Earth doesn't go around the sun in a circle, but they're slightly elliptical or oval shaped, sometimes we're too close to the sun, or the moon's too far from us, or some combination of that, and the moon gets in between us, but there's a ring of light. And because there's a ring of light, you can't look at the sun still. And so it partially blocks out the sun, but not totally blocks out the sun. That's what the red ones are here, is annular eclipses. And there was an annular one in Ohio in '94. Here in this area, I was in Piqua, is where I grew up. I think we were 90% eclipsed. If you went up to Toledo area, you could see the totality. My superintendent saw that one and was like, that wasn't impressive. And it's been pulling teeth to get him to realize how impressive this one's going to be. He's finally there, I think. But anyway, it's been a long while since we had a total solar eclipse. We'll have one in 2099, though, so you don't have to wait as long for the next one here in Ohio. And there are some somewhere if you're willing to travel. I know people who get to see one and they get addicted and they travel all over the world. I'm glad they have the money for it. I wish I did. Anyway, this one here is the path of totality for this eclipse. So, anyone in between the blue lines on the outside edge here will get to see total solar eclipse. If you're close to the edge of that, it's a very short total solar eclipse. There's some people where the sun will wink off and right back on. I watched someone stand in the parking lot where they were testing out code I see, and they're like, here, I can't see it. Here, it's going to be blocked out for a whole 6 seconds. And it's literally just moving that different distance there in the parking lot was enough for them to do it. But the closer you get to the center of that, the longer the eclipse. We are really close to the center. Shelby County is closer. I've got a better map of just Ohio here in a moment. I like this one though, because all of America, at least all of the lower 48, will get a partial eclipse. You can go outside and see the partial eclipse anywhere in America, but only if you live in that narrow little band you can see a total solar eclipse. And it's longer than the last one. And the last one, our memories are short, the last one in 2017 was the first one that happened in my lifetime. It was the first one since the 1970s that happened in the U.S. We went from 1970 on, and no one was ready for there's going to be traffic jams. We learned that in 17, and we remember that here just 7, 8 years later, and you probably should listen to the news to get ready just in case. It could be bad. If it's cloudy, it's not going to be too bad, I don't think. There will be people who have reservations and come in and then they're disappointed that it was cloudy and they go away. But the really ambitious people like me, they're going to travel where it's clear. And so, if it's cloudy, I don't think it'll be too horrible. And you prepared and you're ready just in case. And the Boy Scouts will be proud of you and move on. But the closer you are to the center, the longer your eclipse. Now, the longest eclipse happens down here. The other colors in here are based off of, well, if you're inside of this, and then you get this long, and inside of this you get that long. And it's not worth looking at a map for that. It's worth just going to somewhere and looking up. But before we do, here we go. So this is the animation. It's a little long, but this is the eclipse shadow moving across the ground. Here, to the question, there's the speed. And you can see the sun or the shadow of the moon is moving faster. That has to do with the fact that it's a smaller circle here around the Earth, and so it's moving faster across that circle. It's my understanding of it. They have both Central and Eastern time right now. The eclipse is in Central time. When it gets up here and it moves to Eastern time, they'll change which one's white and which one's not here. And down in the bottom right corner, you have maximum duration. How long is the eclipse? And so, right here, I can get it possible. Oh, it restarted.
Second eclipse.
Right there-ish is where it was last time. So if I was at the center of this, I would get 410. Now, where I was last time is not quite at the center. It was at the center last time. It's not at the center this time. Because it's not at the center this time, it actually ends up being about 3 minutes, 50 seconds, like what I get over Rouge anyway. I lose 20 seconds by going off the center line to go to where I was last time. Carbondale, Illinois, dead center of the X between last time and this time. It was incredibly crowded there last time I've been told.
Anyway, will there be satellite pictures that show if it's sunny, like an actual shadow?
And even if it's cloudy, there's an actual shadow. Because the satellite will be looking down
the
the clouds. And we have that. Now, so I heard someone the other day ask if the space station will get it. It depends on where the station is in its orbit. It goes around the Earth about once every 90 minutes. Will they be over during I think it's roughly 2-3 hours here. They'll pass over at one point, but will they be able to see it? There's a lot that has to happen right for them to see it. But yes, there will be satellite photos. They'll show the shadow. They'll show it whether it's cloudy or not. The other night we had a space station like that goes over every 90 minutes. Occasionally it flies overhead here and it's clear out here, and you can actually go outside and watch the space station. My dad and I were all excited to go watch Space Station, and then it got cloudy again after that break in the storm that Pastor was talking about today, and we had all the lightning. And my dad and I both looked over to the live stream from NASA, and you could see the clouds lighting up from the satellite and there. And my dad managed to get a photo, and then I rewound the video and got a screenshot. I didn't time the photo just right. While he was sheltering in his basement, I was sheltering in the bathroom. But I was watching, I flipped away for the news for the few minutes that news station would be overhead of us, then I flipped back over to the news. My family didn't care the way that I did. But anyway, but yes, there will be actual photos like this from space, from satellites, weather satellites, communication satellites. Anyway, here it's going over Dayton and Lima, and over us, and then there it's done already. You can see it happens right around 3 o'clock. I'll have the exact times for you here in just a second. Cleveland is right in the center. Cleveland should be amazing and has a chance of having clear skies even if the rest of Ohio is cloudy. There's some kind of lake effect that helps there. I don't know the weather as well. Niagara Falls, if it's clear that day, there's going to be gorgeous photos because you can look and the sun will be over the falls. It'll be gorgeous if it's clear that day. I cannot wait to see professional photos when it is clear. But as I've told my wife over and over again, it's not likely to be clear. So we're not waiting for that. Anyway, and you get longer distances elsewhere. Now, this thing isn't responding to me and letting me move on to my next slide. What did you do that for? Next. Yay. So here's one just looking at Ohio, essentially, and get a little bit better view. Now, it jumps right being. I'm going to start it. And then. No! I like the technology, but sometimes it still fights me like it does you, I promise. And no. Weird. I promise I have to sit there and look just one. Anyway, here we go. Now, we're pause. So, video thumbnail is different than this one here, but there's Indianapolis, there's Dayton. Dayton is half of the path of the valley goes over there, but they don't get a very long eclipse because they're close to the edge here. And because they're close to the edge, they don't get a long eclipse. So I can come over here. Columbus, only like the northern suburbs end up inside the path of the eclipse. Picotroy, right here. For those of you on this side, if you ever can't read it, Picotroy, Sydney, that cluster of 3 right there. So this is what it will look like in terms of it moving across. There we're in totality. In totality, if you're on the center line again, is roughly 358. I mean, it's not exactly 358. That's what's going to be appreciated where I plan on being. Weather permitting, you're certainly welcome to come join me. The shadow here is not a perfect circle, and its width changes a little bit. You can see 2,000 miles an hour. The shadow's moving across the ground. I'm hoping my drone can catch that thing coming in. I don't know. It might be too fast. We'll see. But here is a shadow going across Ohio, and then there we're out of it. We'll get about 3.5-ish minutes where we're in that shadow. Because as fast as it actually is, we'll be in the shadow for about 3.5 minutes. Anyway, moving on to my next slide then, like I promised, here is a close-up map of Ohio. So we have first all of Ohio. The red lines here on this one are, you have to be in between the red lines and in the blue shaded area to see the eclipse. The blue line at the center is the center line. You get the longest you can make it to the center line. You will notice on the inset one, Miami County, well, got Montgomery County down to the bottom left, then you have Miami and Shelby. Shelby's right where the I-75 logo is, and I'm over in the southwest corner of Shelby County, where she is. This up here is, the center line is Minster, is where Damon is?
Yeah.
Damon, I think Damon's in Minster. It's Minster or Bremen. I get the two of them confused because they're the same one. But Minster's where Damon is. Damon's parking lot is right on the center line. And it's where I told my superintendent we should go. But they're right on the center line. That's where you get the best eclipse. If you can make it to that line, great. we're in plenty prime spot here. If you don't want to travel, I don't blame you. It could be bad that day. Here are the exact details you want. Now, if you are in Troy, here are the details. If you are not in Troy, timeanddate.com is phenomenal. If you want to snap a photo or if you have a QR code, we'll make sure we get this shared out somehow with you between now and Eclipse Day. If you don't live right here in Troy, this site, you can go in, you can mention your location, and it will give you all the details. I'm giving this presentation again on Tuesday, again as the Bible, unfortunately, at my school. I have the Rushi slide hidden. The Rushi slide data is slightly different. I have the Rushi data for exactly where I'll be standing, which is out on our track, which gives us the clearest view of the horizon. But the eclipse starts at 1:53 and 51 seconds. The seconds be careful with, and if you're not here in Troy, take it with a grain of salt, or go look up your own numbers. It's only going to differ by a few seconds, maybe a minute, but if you don't live here in Troy itself, it's worth going and looking them up. Totality, that is, the moon completely covers the sun, happens at 3:09:16. And so, seconds after 3:09, the sun will go completely dark, and you can look at the sun with your own eyeballs. You'll see the atmosphere of the sun. It'll dim before that, and it'll be dark as night at that point. And it will stay dark for 3 minutes and 34 seconds until 3:12:50. At that point, the sun peeks out again, and it hurts to look at the sun, and you can no longer look at the sun, and you can watch the second half of the eclipse. Now, so far what we've done is we've looked at shadow going across the earth, we've looked at the map of it, we've not looked at what it looks like from here. So, this is an animation of what it looks like from here. Gotta get the mouse over there, come down here, go full screen. I've had a countdown in my classroom like that one, the whole year. But this is what will happen. So here we have what's called first contact. The moon first touches the sun. The moon first touches the sun, starts to go in, you get this tiny little bite out of it. The initial moments, unless you're zoomed in, you're probably not going to notice it. If you go out right at, what was that, 3:50 there, and you can probably, by 2 o'clock, you probably will notice it. 3:50 itself, you're going to be hard pressed to notice it. Anyway, we have first contact, then the moon moves across the path of the sun. This is happening from 1:50 to 3:09. And then at 3:09, and they have a pause built in here, at 3:09 you get total solar eclipse. And where you have totality, it's called contact 2, where the contact 1, the moon first touches here, contact 2, the moon first touches the far side of the sun. Go for it.
Did I hear you correctly that when it is total, you can actually look at it?
Yes. If you're wearing these dumb things, you won't see a thing. I had someone in a webinar as the other day who claimed that some people missed it because during totality they kept the glasses on. I have a feeling that no one kept the glasses on for 3 minutes and was like, I don't see a thing. Now, at some point, you're going to take them off and try to figure out what's going on. I'm skeptical that people are that. I hope they're not that dumb. I mean, sometimes, I hope we're not that dumb as a species. But yes, during totality, take them off and look at it.
The problem is, here, if you look at it,
I know.
That's why
I know. There's all sorts of horrible misinformation out there about it. If you look at it through magnification, yes, it's a problem. That 1970s one, there's a guy who wrote an astronomy book I read very early on in my teaching career. He said, I was there, someone had appointed themselves as eclipse timer countdown. All right, everyone, and you can take off your eclipse glasses in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, take them off. And they took him off. He said, I was looking through a telescope, and he said, I was watching it, and he said, I hear that person on the loudspeaker again, the megaphone, whatever it was. All right, eclipse glasses back on. You have 3, 2. And he's like, the guy's got to be giving himself a little bit of a buffer so he doesn't get sued. The guy, I've got an extra second. He said, I didn't have an extra second. He said, the sun peeked out, and he said it was too bright. I jerked away from the scope immediately, and I lost color vision in that eye. I didn't go completely blind in that eye. He said, I lost color vision, and it went down in the eye. He said, it's much harder to use a telescope now than it was then. Through magnification, very bad things happen. Lots of schools are concerned about little kids and the liability there. I had elementary teachers tell me that earlier this year. And like, yes, if you force yourself, I think every little kid at some point plays the sun stair king. 1, 2, 3! And then their eyes are watering, you can force yourself to look at the sun, but you naturally flinch and look away. Like, you naturally when you have a bright light, and so it's not a huge concern. There are some people, and there's been a few different studies where there are reported cases of temporary damage. There have been no verifiable reported cases of damage for anyone who was looking what's called naked eye, that is just with your own eyeballs and not through magnification, in the last 3-4 decades. There is a minor risk at the end versus at the beginning. At the beginning, you can take them off, you're totally fine, your eyes are, your pupils are still narrow. And then because it's dark as night, your pupils are a little bit wider, and when the sun first turns back on, your eyes are blind, and you're letting just a little bit more light. And that's what seems to be the case with all the temporary damage. But there have been 0 reported cases of permanent damage since, I want to say, the early 90s. And it is totally safe to take them off. And we'll get into safety for sure.
Do these count as
They are not magnification. They shift focal point is all they do. They're not. You're not looking through a magnifying glass with them. Thank goodness. They shift the focal point. And so when I wear these, it makes it so you have normal vision. And so I now have normal vision that everyone else has when I do that. So no, you are fine. It's not a magnifying glass. I don't know, maybe you don't look through the bottom of bifocals or trifocals, but again, not a concern. Go for it.
Is it worthwhile to wear sunglasses somewhere during all this?
No. They don't provide enough protection, and when it's totality, they're in the way. You want to have, because it's dark as night, you don't want to wear sunglasses at night.
Eric, the corona is invisible.
The corona is visible, and this animation does not show the corona. The corona is what's called the atmosphere of the sun. I have a couple okay pictures of the corona coming up. I probably should have found a better one. My diamond ring is kind of the corona, but the corona literally means crown. And it is the atmosphere of the sun, and normally the sun is too bright, and our atmosphere helps wash it out as well. But the sun is too bright, we can't look at it. When the sun is completely blocked out, because the moon's there, you can see the atmosphere of the sun. It's glowing, it's gorgeous, and it's just white and fibrous, and it's changing because it's air. It's like air, it's an atmosphere, it moves. And so you have this short little while where you can study the atmosphere. One of the projects I'm involved in is I'm supposed to have a computer control my camera, and my camera's supposed to be aimed at the sun at a certain zoom level, and I've done all sorts of high-tech things, and the computer is going to take something like 100 images during totality at different things, and then their goal is to have enough of us along the path of the eclipse doing this that they can then turn all of our individual photos into one big long movie. It's called Eclipse main movie. I have learned so much about my camera that I didn't know happened, and there's people who are talking gibberish that I don't understand about how to operate a camera. I'm hoping my pictures are useful. I really am. But I am in over my head on Eclipse Mega Movie. But I'm excited to try and contribute a little bit of data. Hopefully it works out. But yes, you will get to see the atmosphere of the sun. This does not do a good job of animating that, unfortunately. And then you have the third contact with the moon then reveals the sun again, and then you have an hour and a half of, well, maybe only an hour-ish of the moon moving off the sun. So you can go back to the presentation now. Let's see here. It is this one. From 3:12, so not an hour and a half, an hour and 13-ish minutes afterwards. 2017, I went and watched it down in Missouri, like I said. We watched start to totality, and at totality, we're like, school starts in 2 days, we got a long drive back, and traffic might be bad, we're going to start packing up, and maybe about half an hour to pack up my stuff, and then we left, we didn't watch the rest of it. I looked at the sun one last time, alright, and because watching the end of it is like watching the beginning of it in reverse. You have the shadow move in, sun gets smaller, totality is awesome, and then you come away from totality and it's like, oh, that's a letdown. The sun's just partially glowing. And I'm going to watch the whole thing this time. I'm going to collect data the whole time this time. Last time I collected data, and I had data up to just after totality, my data sensors were the last thing that I packed up. My thermometers, my light sensors, and all of that. I packed those up last, so I had as much data as possible, but I couldn't stay for the whole eclipse because it was an extra hour, and we were already getting back super late without counting for traffic. And traffic wasn't great. It wasn't as bad on 70 as it was on 70, but it was not great last time. But yeah, questions so far? Again, don't hesitate to interrupt. So, getting into actual safe view. Don't look at the sun. And that one should be obvious, but don't look at the sun. Don't go outside and look at the sun. Unless you have the proper kind of protection. Now, if you You get the glasses, great. I wish I could give away glasses. I don't have enough glasses. All the glasses that I have accumulated over the years, I have given away at this point. Unfortunately, the school's bought enough for the students. They didn't buy enough for me to bring to you. I'm sorry. Someone told me just today they saw them display standard Kroger, bought 4 of them for the whole family, $2 a piece. They'll be running $5 a piece the week of the Eclipse. As soon as you see that display in the store, I saw one at Walmart the other day, and then they were gone. But one for the family is good. Watching the sun move in for an hour and a half is not exciting. Paint drying is probably more. And so, take a look, enjoy it. Look away from the sun before you take them off. I've made that mistake plenty of times. It's like a camera flash. And then hand them off to your spouse, your kids, your neighbor, and look at it. And every few minutes, oh yeah, it's moving more. If you're watching the movie, you're not going to notice it. But every 10 minutes, you're going to begin. There are also other ways to do it. Go for it.
I just have a question. The last, whatever eclipse it was, 2020.
17 was the last total.
Yeah. Okay, we bought the glasses, but I keep hearing on the news now, if you have them so many years,
Nope, they're perfectly fine as long as you take care of them.
Okay.
I've got, actually, the very next slide, I have my glasses, so here we go. The big ones that Rachel and Natalie are wearing are the ones that we sold as a fundraiser for a club that I was in, a science club I was in back in the 1990s for that annular one we had in maybe 94, so it would have been 6th grade. I use those every year. I wish I'd remembered to bring them. Those pairs I don't give away because we're down to about 4 of them between my dad and I, and we'll put together a few dozen. Some of them were beat up, some of them we've given away, but they are perfectly fine. If you want to check for sure, put them on, look at a bright light, look at a headlight. If you can't see it, they're good still. If it's creaking through, or if they're creased like right now, be careful. Make sure you at least test against a really bright light. Make sure you can see the really bright light. And then test quickly against the sun. It's going to be like any other time you've accidentally or intentionally, if you're looked at the sun. It's not good, but you're going to be fine if you do it for a fraction of a second. Look quickly at the sun, look away. Do you see an after image like you do with a camera flash? Does it hurt? Then those glasses are no good. And I would not call these Eclipse glasses either. I put the name there, and someone just chastised me the other day. These are solar Eclipse. Every year I take my students out and go look at the sun with Eclipse glasses. Because you look at the sun anytime. It's just only interesting during an eclipse. The number of times my students put it on, it looks like a plain moon. Yep, that's what the big ball of light looks like. It looks like a plain moon. But I don't even have cool ones on the left and asking years ago. Those have been given away to someone since 2017, but they're perfectly fine if you still have your 17 glasses. If you don't, again, when you see them, at least one for the family. Now, there's a couple other Eclipse ambassadors who are appointed like me to go talk about the Eclipse to all sorts of people, and one who's like, I've been in several of his sessions, he's been like, you don't need them. Everyone wants them. They're worth it. You get a look at the sun. They're worth it. They are. You don't need one for everyone necessarily.
Can you see solar sunspots and things like that?
If they're
with glasses on?
If they're big enough. For the first time in my life in February, and I have a photo of it, the first time in my life in February, I saw what are called naked eye sunspots. Now, it's not true naked eye because I have these on, but naked eye means for an astronomer, no magnification. There's not a telescope. I did see naked eye sunspots back in February. It's the first and only time in my life I've seen, sunspots don't go away immediately. I saw it 2 days. I kept checking days after, and then it got cloudy again in February because Ohio. Yeah. But don't look at the sun without appropriate filters. The glasses you buy here in the U.S. are probably going to be reputable. Online, there's plenty of good people. There's 2 great ones here in the U.S., Eclipse Shade, Rainbow Symphony, and I can't remember the third one online. Probably will get them cheaped up. If not, they should be. I'm going to go till the end of March to order. Shipping would be an issue at that point, but go for it.
I remember being taken by surprise at a partial solar eclipse.
Sure.
And then the fun of watching, I didn't have any glasses or anything like that, but the fun of watching the eclipse on the ground
We'll get to it.
as it filtered through the trees.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's gorgeous. That's another safe way to view it. Don't look at the sun under magnification, especially. Again, unless you have the proper filters. If you do have solar, don't. Put the glasses on. Oh my goodness. And bring up binoculars.
Oh,
I don't know how many of you have done it, but burning ants on the ground with magnifying lens works. I show that to my students. I use paper, not ants, but it works. Binoculars are that to the extreme. They will burn a hole in these super quick. So if you are going to look through magnification, you have to have the proper solar filters on the front end. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. Don't look at the sun magnification. Come out to Rushi if it's clear. I'll have several telescopes and binoculars. I lost the word that quick. Telescopes and binoculars with solar filters on. You can look at the sun through them as much, and it's going to be awesome. It is. Camera, same thing. Don't aim your camera at the sun. I saw lots of photos of burned cameras because people didn't have solar filters on them, or kept taking pictures after the moon moved away and the sun came back out, and ruined that. Again, solar filter on the front end, great. Solar filter over your phone camera, great. Just don't look at the sun and accidentally look at the sun as you're trying to aim at the sun. This maybe is better if you, I don't know, perhaps.
One pair for this phone and one pair for you.
Yes, and snap, didn't work, snap, and try a few times. Have a phone that has lots of those, good luck figuring out which one's the right one. I don't know which one's turn off the flash. It might want to trigger the flash. You can do that, and then you're going to get a picture of the flash and not with the sun through it. But because glasses over, this works just fine. Welder's goggles. You hear about welder's goggles being used. The welder's mask I have, not good, I've discovered. Apparently, there's ratings, there's different numbers. Higher numbers are better. Rating 13 or 14 are good enough. If you weld or know someone who welds and they know about the numbers, great. Welder's mask costs way more than this. Buy these, not a welder's mask if you don't have one. If you do have one, look for the number. If you can't find the number, spend a couple bucks. Buy one for the family at least. Anyway, like I said, Eclipse glasses work great. That's lesson 2017 in Missouri. Taking a break in the shade because, again, watching the sun just move slowly across is not super exciting. And at that point, I'm genuinely kind of frustrated because I had never practiced aiming my telescope at the sun, and I didn't make filters for the viewfinder. Maybe for the telescope, but not the viewfinder. And I don't I tried to do too much. What you're just describing is called pinhole projection. And with pinhole projection, you can get an image of the sun. Now, that's a colander that I grabbed out of the kitchen, and we still have that one. And you can see all these little crescent moon shapes. If you're far enough back here, maybe you can't see them. You have to trust me, but there's little crescent moon shapes. Thank you. The other one there is a 3D printed piece of plastic that NASA put out a whole bunch of files, and the shop teacher had just gotten a 3D printer, and I was fascinated with it, and I printed out a whole bunch of them. One for everyone in the family. My black one went missing. But I have everyone else's. But it has here 2 holes in it, and this is what's called pinhole projection. You hold it up, there's a shadow on the ground. You're not looking through the pinhole at the sun because you don't look at the sun without proper filter. You hold this up towards the sun, and you look at the shadow on the ground, and you move this until it's in focus. And you get tiny little crescents. Now, you're looking at the light source. I've got a demonstration here for you. This is why I turned off the lights. That is a photo I took right here earlier today because I kept forgetting to do it. But that is the light bulb I have inside of this thing. The light bulb has a filament that instead of being a straight line is posted in a C shape. So it's got a C shape like this. And you can see that glowing there in the center. So I'm going to make sure, there we go. The C shape will be facing you. Right now it's a C this way. It means backwards C, but it's a C. I'm going to cover this up. You don't see anything, of course. Now, let's poke the hole here. This is still one of the most amazing things I know. Sorry, hold
There it
on.
is.
Theirs looks like a CDU. I turned it as I put the foil on. You're seeing the filament. You're seeing the thing making the light. We're poking another hole. You get another one. It's over there. Where's the? You're not seeing the spot of light. You all thought when I poked the hole, you were going to get a circle of light, but you're seeing the filament. This is what's called pinhole projection. This is exactly what happened. Wait, if you do this with the sun, these 2 holes here, one was a star, one was a circle. You get it. circle. You can take this outside right now. I'm not now, it's sunset, but on a sunny day, you take this outside, you poke 2 holes. They don't have to be nice, neat holes because you're getting an image of the thing making the light and not of the thing letting the light pass through. So you get a circle. During eclipse, you get a thing that looks like a moon. Now, as I said, and I'm going to make sure here, as I said, we'll turn this, there you go. This is C to you. But up there, it's upside, it's backwards C. See, to me, it's not. And that's because when it's pinhole projection, the light crosses. And so light that goes through the hole, like this red one here, it's in the back there comes to the front. The blue one that's in the front, when it goes to the hole, goes to the back. It flips the image. It's actually what's going on in your eyeball. Your eyeball flips the image, your brain flips it back.
So God figured that out ahead of time, huh?
That he did. The complexities of the eye are one of the biggest things we've learned. Anyway, if you look there, it's not just a circle of light. There's a whole bunch of light and dark spots. It's overlapping seas. It's a whole bunch of overlapping seas. I can here real quick. You get a whole bunch of overlapping seas. And so you have light spots and dark spots, a whole bunch of overlapping seas. Anyway, before we bring the lights back up, big word. It turns out as well that not only can you do pinhole projection, and I'm glad you mentioned the trees thing, this is a photo of the ground with leaves up above in the trees, and normally you can get a whole bunch of circles of light and you don't pay attention to it. And during an eclipse, you get a whole bunch of crescents of light, and depending on how eclipse the moon is, or the sun is, how much the moon has blocked out the sun, you get different sized crescents, and as the eclipse goes on, you get more and more crescents. You don't have to have a 3D printer and make a cool thing like this. I mean, it's cool, but you can poke a hole on a piece of cardboard. Mm-hmm. I did a craft the other day with my students where we took cardstock and put their names into it. And now we can have a whole bunch of little crescent suns here that spell out your name. We went to that room that I had to test it with this, and we had their name made up of a whole bunch of things. You don't have to have a fancy thing. That one there is literally, as you can see, just someone doing this and just making a tiny enough hole, and then you get a whole bunch of little crescents. Someone else has to be taking the photo for them. I tried doing that last time. Wait, how do I hold you? Someone else had to take the photo for them.
Is there a maximum diameter of the hole where it wouldn't do anything?
Yes. Yes, there is. You want tiny. It's called pinhole projection for a reason. There is a point where it can get too big. Now, this one here is, I mean, I can't quite fit my pin through it, but I can fit a decent amount here, and it still works for me. So, but the finer the hole leads, the more focus. Actually, I've got one more here before we do, and I have it out of order for some reason, so I'm going to go forward to here, just like this one. I don't know who figured this out. They're a genius, and I heard about this one in January. I was like, no way. I went back to school and tested it with this thing. Pinhole reflection. So I have here disco ball. I have way too many disco balls. Don't ask. I am fans anyway. But notice, pinhole reflector. If you have a tiny mirror, you put the mirror out in the sun, and you make it so that where the light goes is in the shadow. And you get the same thing like a pinhole projector, or a pinhole viewer like this. You get a pinhole reflector. I don't know who did that. I'm so happy we did it. You can bring lights back up now then. Thank you, I appreciate it. There are other ways to do projection. You can do magnification like this. Like I said, aiming at the sun is hard. And you can do the same at the sun because the sun moves across the sky during the eclipse. It's going to start up here, and the sun is going to be, I want to say it's about 50 degrees above the horizon, and it's going to be about 40 degrees during the eclipse. And so it's going to go from about 5 fist high to about 4 fist high over here. It's going to move from pretty much straight south to southwest as the sun rises and sets, and it's doing part of that motion in the late afternoon while you're watching the eclipse. So keeping that aimed at the sun is really hard. I've tried a few times, I've gotten frustrated every time. This is another way, and you'll see a lot of people talk about this, and this is the only safe way that don't use it. It works, it's great. Poke a tiny hole in a box. Cut out a bigger hole in the back of the box so you can look into it. and then you get it. It's a little bit crisper than having it on the ground. I did not have a smooth area last time. I will this time. And so doing those photos on sidewalk was ideal. The crescents aren't nice and even. I tried a whole bunch of times before I got a good photo, and I never could get a good photo of this and that at the same time. I just couldn't get things to stay focused. And so, anyway, does work. Poking a hole here is fine. Cutting out a hole, putting foil over it, and poking a tinier hole, it's a little bit easier to focus that way. Then you'll hear all sorts of people talk about that's a good way to view it. As it is, I don't think it's as exciting as being able to look right at the sun. Anyway, pinhole reflector. That's how to save the view. Glasses, pinhole projection, solar filters, and reflectors. I cannot have a big disco on my classroom. I cannot wait. Anyway, things to do during. And because I'm not using the nice slideshows with just Google Slides, I have to have the words and the images up at the same time. I can't make them alternate, so, oh well. Wear bright colors. Colors get weird during the eclipse. More and more the sun gets blocked out, your eyes are not as sensitive to color at night as they are during the day. You get this weird thing. I've been told, I didn't notice it last time, I noticed colors getting weird. I've been told that greens are more obvious and reds are more muted. I saw someone who did it, and I'm making my mom do it because she loves to sew. I bought 2 shirts at Goodwill, one red one and one green one. She's going to cut them in half and sew together. I'm going to have one, my dad's going to have one. We're going to have ugly red and green shirts. We'll see if they actually change. Because I don't remember to check, but wear bright colors. Wear bright colors, don't wear dark colors. Wear bright colors. Look and see at the other people around you wearing bright colors if the colors change. They might. I didn't notice it a lot last time. You will notice changes in temperature or lighting. You will feel it getting cold. You will notice it getting dimmer. Depending on where you are in season and atmosphere and wind and all that stuff, how much it changes can vary, but guaranteed 5 degrees, probably 10 degrees. I want to say in Missouri, I measured almost 20 degrees drop on Fahrenheit. Observe animal behavior. It'll be a little early, but we might have crickets. Crickets will start chirping when it gets dark. As it's getting darker and darker, you see flocks of birds flying. They think it's night. They're running home. Last time, it was August. Cicadas got quiet. Crickets got loud. Humans, listen to them. Now, we're not animals, but listen to them. I told you I took a whole bunch of sensors. I collected temperature and light data. The guy who made the sensors, the company, put out a request, hey, if you collect the data, send it to me. About a dozen of us did. It got cloudy where he was. He wanted good data because it got cloudy where he was. He used my data when he wrote this professional paper for a science teacher journal. It was awesome. Quoting me in it. I said, I wish I'd taken a microphone. I would have never thought to take a microphone. I was up on this hill. There's this baseball diamond. Got those school buses. I followed a whole bunch more school buses came. There's 500,000 students down on that baseball diamond. And I'm football fields length away from them, roughly, up on the hill. As the temperature and light went down, the crowd noise went up. You can watch what they're here to do. It's worth it. Yes, if it's easy to sit on your front porch, go for it. But if you can watch with a group, I could not believe how loud the crowd was behind me. The animal effects I noticed, the crowd got so loud. The difference. 2.5 minutes later then, almost 4 minutes this time, light came back up, temperature came back, the crowd didn't go quiet. The crowd stayed excited for a few minutes. I told you I packed up my sensors last. As I'm packing up, this couple comes up to us. It's been a half hour since totality. Have you seen our dog keep bolted? Keep the pets inside, unfortunately, or chained up well. But observe the wild animals. I've convinced the biology teacher at school to film her horses and her sheep and cows, I think are what she said. She don't film them, see if they do anything weird. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if you have animals, watch them. She told me in exchange, the same company that made all those sensors, they make wireless EKG watch. She told me I had to wear the EKG gear in Eclipse because she wanted to see what my heart did. Deal! And so, I have the microphone this time. I am ready to collect that crowd noise data. I want to hear the crowd, and it was so cool. Shadows get weird. I just skip ahead. I know that in space, skipping ahead. Shadows get weird. They get sharp. You'll be really picky. If you make a right angle, one side will be sharp and one side will be fuzzy. And if you rotate it, it changes which side is sharp and fuzzy. And it has to do with just the sliver of light coming through. And because the sliver of light's coming through this way, if I remember correctly, with the sliver coming this way, this shadow is fuzzy, this shadow is sharp, but I might have them flipped. I wasn't focused on the ground when that happened last time. There's something called shadow bands that happen. It's best to lay out a tablecloth bed sheet. I heard about this days before the eclipse, and I chose not to steal sheets from the hotel. That's wrong. But I watched for them on the ground. I saw them when I saw them on grass. It looks like shit snakes. I've heard it called shadow bands. I've heard it called shadow snakes, but it looks like snakes. It's about 30 to 60 seconds before totality. You have totality about 30 to 60 seconds after. You're more likely to notice them after because your eyes have dark adjusted already. And your eyes are more sensitive. And so when the sun gets bright again, and you can't look at it any longer, raise the sun, look at the ground. Don't put the glasses immediately back on and look at the sun. It'll look the same as it did as it got darker. Look at the ground so you can see the shadow bands. They're weird. We have guesses. We don't know why. They are very hard to film and do photos of, I think. This looks like a vertical sheet. It's not. It's flat on the ground. And the shadow bands. I'm going to try. I've got a rolled cell phone. I'm going to have a rolled cell phone just for video during that. I don't want to be hands-on, but I'll have that old cell phone recording 10 minutes before, and I'll go back afterwards and see if it managed to catch one. I've been told they're very hard to film and take photos of it because it's dark, because you don't have time to change all your camera settings. I don't know. The other one, like I said, I'm hoping to convince you to download an app or two and do some citizen science. My favorite is Globe. You do have to create a free account. You do have to download the app. You're welcome to use the QR code again. We'll make sure we get these out, share the PowerPoint or something with everyone. But the Globe app, you download it and make a free account. You can use it anytime. I go out when the satellite flies over during the day, it's collecting, it's how we make all our weather forecasts. It's different satellites that are out there. NASA likes to have what's called ground truth. People on the ground who can say, this is what I saw, and the satellite says, this is what I saw. Believe it or not, satellites are really bad at telling cold clouds from cold ground. White snow on the ground and white clouds, they're both very cold, and it doesn't know which one it's looking at. So if you go outside and you're like, no snow on the ground, but cloudy, or snow on the ground, but clear, they can do what's called ground truthing, using data from the ground to verify the truth that the satellites are going to actually take citizens' data and improve the algorithms, the equations that they use to interpret the data. I go outside if it's sunny and I feel like it, and when it says, hey, satellite's going over in the next 15 minutes, if you go observe the clouds. So I go outside and it answers me about 24 questions, and they're simple, like, is it cloudy? What percent clouds estimated? Is it 25? Is it 50? Is it 90? Estimated. How blue does the sky look? One screen has 6 questions. Is it muddy? Are there puddles on the ground? Are there leaves on the tree? It's really basic stuff. And then you can turn in that data, or you take 6 photos. Six photos. They use the phone's compass, big photo north, east, south, west, up, down. And then they compare your photos from the ground to what the satellite's seeing up above. And they can use it to make sure that you're reading the data correct. You can do that anytime. They have a few other experiments on there. I don't mess with them. They exist. If they interest you, go for it. But right before the eclipse, they release Eclipse. It's not out yet. They say by the end of the month, early April, it'll be there and you can actually practice with it. During the eclipse, if you turn it on, it will buzz your phone, remind you every, I think it's 15-ish minutes. Hey, measure the temperature. You have to measure the temperature. If you want to borrow the thermometer from me, I got plenty.